to Learning Support Classroom, and I love my teacher. And
Philadelphia, 76ers, here they come.
So in the special education program at my school, the students are really segregated from the rest of the student body.
Number one, Philadelphia, here they come. Team of the year. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I was very fortunate to have had the opportunity to visit other classrooms besides learning support during my time at my practicum. The one classroom that opened my eyes to just how serious the exclusion of people with disabilities is was the autistic support classroom I visited. This classroom was the only room down a hallway, and I personally felt that this classroom was very isolated. When you walk in, there was a bathroom in the classroom, and then I was also made aware that the 7 students that were in the classroom eat lunch in there. So pretty much the students stay in there the whole day without leaving. During my visit, the teacher was telling me how she recently tried to integrate her students into the regular classroom the last month of school. She then said that these students are refusing to leave the classroom and go into the regular classrooms. But I couldn't help but think, since they were in this classroom the whole year separated, what would make them want to transition out of the classroom the last month of school? This was very sad to hear because it almost made me feel defeated that these students have already been taught in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade that they are different from their peers. I think this is a great example of how special education's pull-out model is persistently leading to the exclusion of people with disabilities, both in the classroom and ultimately within society.
the question I've raised in regards to my experience is, what role does intersectionality play within special education? I wonder this question because special education in general segregates against students that don't fit the typical mold or standard of what a student should look like. So then I was curious in how other factors such as
Race, gender, class
further strengthens this oppression and further marginalizes certain students compared to others. Today in class, when we were talking about the WSPI, I couldn't help but realize how special education is not the root of the problem, but society is. The WSPI is systemic, which means society's ideals trickle its way down into our schools. The one ideal that society has is that able bodies are superior and more capable. This is implemented in schools within special education because students with visual disabilities are more likely to be in special education or at least tested for special education. Then even when the students with visual disabilities are in the general education classroom, they don't have full access to everything that their fellow peers do due to the fact that they go against what the typical or standard student looks like. Also, I think it's important to emphasize my point of visual disabilities. With visual disabilities, it gives people the opportunity to automatically assume that one is less capable because they are not physically abled. My older sister Emily actually uses a wheelchair, and I notice this when we go out in stores, how people stare at us or they'll go out of their way to be extra generous and like hold open the door because they assume she is not capable of doing it herself. So visible disabilities is one factor that I've experienced in both my personal life and in my practicum that marginalizes students. However, like we learned in class, intersectionality is cruel, and other factors, specifically race and gender, play a big role in further marginalizing students within special education. During my time at my practicum, I had the opportunity to sit in on multiple IEP meetings for both boys and girls. Under every student's IEP, there's a section for behavior. My mentor teacher really had nothing to say for any of the girls' behaviors, but he did for the boys, and he often labeled the boys as being emotionally disturbed. This made me curious if there's an overrepresentation of boys within special education due to their behavior problems. And it made me wonder if special education is merely a place that these students, specifically boys, are placed because they don't act like this typical student should behave in a class. In all of the research I read online, there was mixed results as to whether or not there's an overrepresentation or underrepresentation of minoritized students in special education. From personal experience, I can't really speak whether or not there's an overrepresentation or underrepresentation, but what I do know is that in the urban school I was in, there was a lot less funding towards special education programs. One example of this is in the autistic support classroom. It is almost pivotal for these students to go out and go on field trips to learn life skills. The teacher was telling me how they don't have enough funding and resources to go out of the classroom and do those certain trips that other school districts in the area do. Overall, after my experience in my practicum, it is evident to me that intersectionality plays a pivotal role within the segregation of students within special education. In special education, we are damaging students' souls and making students' dreams seem unattainable. There needs to be a solution to ensure that all students feel included within the general education classroom and within society.
When hope was high